You're going to be like, wow, that Ruby girl is really, really cool. And I want to be your friend.
Ruby, 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 Ruby! And do you? Know what you doing to me? Ruby, 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 Ruby!
I want to be strong. To get over this cold. Oh, hey, arcaders. Welcome once again to the Cartoon Connoisseur Theater podcast and our minicast, RWBY Roundup. I'm UberNerd527, and oh man, guys, I've been feeling really, really bad as of late, but I wanted to make sure that I brought this episode of the RWBY Roundup to you guys. This is our first one of 2016, and I'm very, very excited to talk about this episode, even if I feel terrible today, so I apologize for any sniffles and coughs or anything like that goes throughout this podcast today, folks, but I'm going to be sleeping after this, so let's go on to the episode. Before I do, of course, we are going over episodes of Volume 3 of Rooster Teeth's RWBY. If you have never seen RWBY before, go to roosterteeth.com or youtube.com/roosterteeth, and you can actually watch the episodes on YouTube. They also are on Netflix as well. You can only see the first 2 seasons or volumes of the episode. However, the episodes of Volume 3 are on roosterteeth.com, and some of them are on YouTube as well. So feel free to do that. Now we are going to go over the episode entitled The Beginning of the End, which is the 7th episode so far. We're going to be talking about the episode in length. We're going to be probably even spoiling a whole bunch of things. So if you haven't watched the episode yet, please make sure that you watch the episode first before actually listening to the rest of this podcast, okay? So make sure you do that, okay? So again, let's get into this episode entitled Beginning of the End. So we start off the episode on a black screen, and you hear a lot of talking, and I know some of the voices already. One of them is being Cinder, who starts off saying that I want to be strong. Very much how I started this podcast, which is the joke if you didn't get it. Anyways, so then we start hearing other voices, and we hear about a ring. We talk a little bit about this, that, and the other. And then after that, it cuts to Cinder, who is looking directly at a younger-looking Emerald, who is cornered in the middle of an alleyway. Now, as they start talking, Cinder kind of tells her how much impressed she is because she stole a ring from a jeweler right in front of his face. I'm guessing that she's talking about Emerald's semblance. She can actually make illusions, and I think that's one of her abilities and powers that we were introduced to a couple episodes ago, and it was a really kind of an interesting scene. Now, after this little introduction to each other, then we fade to black again, and we hear more noises, and generally this is just letting us know that Emerald has joined Cinder, and this is kind of a little bit of a fast forward from what we from the scene we just were in. So then we open up with another scene. Now this scene is Mercury, who is standing and his legs are injured. There's a barn behind him and it's on fire. Emerald and Cinder are standing in front of them, and Cinder asks for another character, and please forgive me, I've got sick brain right now, so I can't remember the name. And of course Mercury tells them that to look on the ground because he just killed him. And we find out that that was actually Mercury's father. So he killed his own father. Cinder is very impressed with the fight. They were watching the entire fight from the treetops as this was happening. And then, of course, we fade to black again. This time, Mercury joins Cinder. We hear some more noises. And then the thing comes up again. This time, we are in a White Fang camp. Adam is talking to Cinder. Now, Cinder is trying to convince Adam to have the White Fang join, whatever thing they're going to be doing. And it doesn't really go well. Adam doesn't really want to join them because mainly that they're humans, and them being faunuses, they don't want to join up with humans, and they don't want to help humans in any kind of cause that they may have. So Adam just flat out refuses, and Cinder and everybody leave peacefully. Now, my favorite part of that scene is actually as Adam is turning back to go to the camp, Blake shows up, asks what's going on, and Adam just says, "Don't worry about it. We just need to get ready for our next job," which I'm sure is referring to the train job that they did in the Black trailer at the very, very, very beginning of RWBY. That was kind of cool to kind of place this chronologically in the history of RWBY. So then we get another fade to black. Mainly this is talking about a plan, and Cinder is telling everybody that they can't misstep it. They can't, not 1 foot out of place, she says. Then we fade into a scene of just a beautiful countryside. There's a girl on horseback. Now, I knew right away who that girl was because she looked very familiar. If you remember from our last episode, we were introduced to a girl named Amber, who the secret organization is trying to keep her alive for as long as possible. So this is her on the horseback. She is riding down a dirt road, and I believe right away I knew that this was going to be the attack that we learned about in the last episode that they talked about. So we get to actually see it now. Now, Amber gets tricked by Emerald's illusion. She makes an illusion of a little girl kind of crying on the road, kind of like she just had an accident and she kind of hurt her leg and she's all alone right now. Then Amber gets down to help the girl out, and just as she's doing this, Emerald makes some noise. This puts Amber into action, and she starts attacking. And then, of course, Mercury comes out of the flames that she makes. Now, as she's doing that, his pants melt away, and you see that Mercury has robotic limbs. He has robotic legs, probably replaced from the ones that were broken originally. They look very similar to, if you've ever seen Full Metal Alchemist, they look very similar to Edward's arm that he has, the robotic arm that he has. It looks very similar to that. I know that the creator of the show, Monty, was a huge fan of Full Metal Alchemist, so it's probably a nod to the show, more than likely. That's just my opinion. But if you work on RWBY and you're listening to this, I would love to know if that was a nod to Full Metal Alchemist. They start fighting. Amber uses her abilities, and as you remember, she's one of the 4 sisters. She has the ability to use powers without having to use any of the dust. And she's kind of, when she glows, her power kind of comes off and it almost looks like a mask that goes around her eye. And she kind of floats in the air. And it reminded very much of Storm from the X-Men. If you ever watched X-Men, the movies, or even read the comic books or whatnot, it reminded me very much of Storm and how she uses her powers. She uses her powers very similar. She can create, storms and thunder and lightning, and she even controlled some of the wind and turned these leaves into like ice shards that she attacked with. It was actually a really fun, very, very well done fight. And Mercury and Emerald were no match for her at all. And I think that was the point, where they were just going to keep her busy until Cinder showed up. And then, of course, Cinder, using her abilities, attacked. Now, I will have to say, Cinder has an amazing weapon. And she has 2 swords that turn into a bow and arrow. I thought that was so cool, seeing that. These swords look really, really neat. And the bow and arrow looks really cool as well. Props to whoever designed that. So Amber fights off all 3 of them. She knocks Cinder and Mercury away and knocks down Emerald and uses her staff. She's about to kill Emerald, or at least hurt her very badly. And just when she's about to do the strike, she stops, drops her staff, and falls down. And you see that Cinder shot an arrow directly into her back. Now, as this happens, Mercury and Emerald kind of recover a little bit. They go up to Amber and they kind of prop her up. And Cinder, with a weird looking glove on, puts her hand in front of Amber's face, and out of her palm comes a little tick looking Grim. It looks very much like a tick, or like very much like a bug. And the bug shoots out this like web to her face, and this starts sucking out her power, putting it in Cinder. Now, as this all happening, Uncle Crow comes and tries to save her from Cinder. She uses her new powers and abilities to disappear from the scene. And then we fade to black again. Cinder is having a conversation with somebody. We don't know who. Having a conversation with somebody, saying, kind of explaining how the powers feel inside of her. She said it's kind of like a hunger, like a constant hunger inside of her, and that she likes it. Presumably been told that she's done a good job and that she needs to get the rest of the power. And that's pretty much all we get that. And then we cut back again to Adam talking to a minion, and presumably, and I think I'm 100% right with this, but presumably we're talking about this is what happened after Blake had left Adam off the train. The minion, he talks about how he wants this minion to find her, and the minion's like, yeah, I'll find her on my life, and all that. And he then kind of like backs down and says, you know what, never mind, we have other things we need to do, don't worry about it, we'll find her eventually. And just then you hear some attacks and some power firing, and so they run out of the tent and see Cinder and company have basically demolished the entire camp and everybody in it. You know, Cinder tries to convince Adam to join up, and it gives them dust and money and showing off her power. So yeah, this is basically how Adam and the White Fang join up with Cinder and her group. So then we cut back to the stadium, and we're back to the episode we just had last week with Blake's match with Mercury. This is the end of that episode, right at the very end of it. Mercury's on the ground. He's faking his injury now that we know that he has a robotic leg. He's faking an injury. Emerald is kind of real sorry about this, and she's also playing a part as well. And they bring a stretcher in, and they cart Emerald off. I mean, they cart Mercury off. As they're bringing it out, Cinder is waiting for them, and she's disguised as a nurse, and she then tells the emergency services guys to bring Mercury into their ship, and they do, and fly off. And you also notice that Neo is piloting the ship, and everything is kind of just going to plan. Another thing I want to bring out of note is that Mercury said she controlled two minds. That one mind is hard enough, but now two minds. So what two minds did she control at this point? We're not sure, and I'm sure we'll find out eventually. So then we cut to the news, and they're talking about the attack at the tournament, and also talking about the Grimm attacking the cities. They're coming out in droves, and hunters are going to fight them. So what about this plan? What is this is probably more than likely this is part of Cinder's plan. So everything's going just the way it is, and she's very happy, of course. We find Mercury, who's fixing up his legs, and he asks Cinder what he should do next, and she says, just lay low until the end of the plan. We don't want anyone seeing you walking around because it would ruin everything. That's pretty much it. He says, I can do that, and pretty much the end of the episode. So, wow. I will have to say that all around, this is probably one of the best episodes I've watched so far. It really tells a story, and it tells us a lot of information, but it also leaves us with a lot of questions. Lots and lots of questions that we need answered. And I think that's a good thing, especially with this season kind of going the way it is. There's a lot of explanation. There's a lot of things we have to understand. And this has been a season of getting this information out and kind of understanding it a little bit better. Now, I also loved again the fight scenes, the story, the look, the voice acting. Everything was just perfect in this episode, and I really, really enjoyed it. So, if you're a huge fan of RWBY, I highly suggest this episode. I will say that the backgrounds are much, much more beautiful than I've ever seen them in any RWBY episode so far. I really loved the little farmland that Amber was riding down with her horse. I loved, loved, loved the just all the backgrounds and all the looks, and even even when it was fading to black, I kind of like that as a thing because it kind of showed us what happened. It kind of showed us what happened without actually showing us what happened. And again, it raises more questions. And it's also a con of mine because I want to know now what's going on. Because, yes, this answers some questions, but it doesn't answer everything that I want to know. And it kind of leaves me like, I want to know, I want to know. So it's a con, but only a con because I'm a nerd and I want to know now. I'm not patient. Another con is that we have to wait to see what happens to Yang. Again, Yang is my favorite character. I have to know what happened to her. She obviously is arrested, and she's obviously in some deep water right now. But I want to know what happens now. And some people are even mad at the school themselves. So we've got a lot of problems coming around, and the next episode is definitely going to be a very interesting episode, I believe. Maybe even more interesting than this one. I don't know. But I, again, want to give props to Rooster Teeth again for putting up those artwork, the artwork that you put up, the character models, the background drawings. They're absolutely gorgeous. Please, Rooster Teeth, if you're listening to this podcast, please make an Art of RWBY book. I would absolutely buy it if you made an Art of RWBY book, because your artwork, whoever your artist is amazing. Whoever this person is has done a great, great job, and I wanna just spit that out right now. So, anyways, it's about time for me to end the show here. But before I do, I want to go ahead and just say a few things. First of all, folks, if you're listening to this on YouTube or on thearcadearchives.com, again, that's thearcadearchives.com, please leave comments. We want to know if you like this episode that we talked about. So we want to know your thoughts on the episode. So please leave your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear from you. And I will definitely read the comments on the next episode. So please, please, please make sure you leave those comments. Also, if you like this mini-cast, we have another mini-cast that we're doing currently called Pokemon Rewind, where we're going over the Pokemon anime through random story arcs, and then we're going through the story arc episode by episode. We are currently in the Orange Islands. This month is called PokePals Month, where a lot of my PokePals, a lot of my Poke friends are coming and joining us and talking a little bit about the episodes. So please make sure that you listen to that and let me know what you think. Also, I don't know if you know this, but I have a webcomic called Tales from the Game Grid. And this is a monthly webcomic, comes out every month, and I'm very, very excited to start a brand new ad campaign called I Want My TGG, or My Tales from the Game Grid, and we want to make sure that we spread the news. So I'm asking you right now, if you're a fan of the comic, or if you never read it and you do read it and you do like it, please go on the website, thearcadearchives.com, and use the pictures that I've put up there. They're all original art by me. We want to really spread the word about this comic. So there are some pictures to use for profile pictures, for cover pictures for your websites or for your social media. So please do that. And as a reward for helping me out, there's a free iPhone wallpaper as well that you can use on your iPhone device. Thank you so much for joining us here for Cartoon Connoisseur Theater's RWBY Roundup. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm very sorry if I don't if this episode isn't up to snuff because I'm really sick, but I wanted to make sure you guys got a new episode now. So thank you so much again for joining us here, folks, and best wishes to all of you out there, and keep well. Thank you for joining us for this Arcade Archives Network video. If you like this, please make sure to subscribe to this channel and leave comments below. If you would like more, please go to thearcadearchives.com or zowie.kerpowie.com. Thank you so much once again for joining us for this Arcade Archives Network video, and don't forget to keep playing like it's 1981.
Message from headquarters. This is a Rebellion production and is part of the Arcade Archives Network. That is all.